Hello, welcome to Dragon Ball Super Except the Villain is Goku Episode 4 Breakdown. I am RedactedNPC. This episode breakdown series has gone through a lot of change. So today is October 1st. It's Nigerian Independence Day. I am currently uploading Episode 3's breakdown for this series. And I was just thinking about the amount of change that this has gone through. Originally, this was meant to be a very low effort production where I just very quickly talk about the things that inspired me or the edits that I made for these episodes. It was supposed to have very minimal editing. As it is now, currently you should be watching me making the thumbnail. It's getting a lot of editing. There's a lot more effort put into it, and it's just something that I wasn't expecting it to ever get to this point. The reason why I bring this up is because this episode is actually the episode where I decided I need to start doing episode breakdowns. And you're going to laugh. If you've been watching all the other episode breakdowns, you've heard me talk about some of the most impactful things that I've done. But if you're watching this episode breakdown, you're going to realize that the thing that started it all was such a minor thing. It was such a nothing burger. The only other thing I wanted to mention is that because I now actually add subtitles myself to the videos, I noticed how much I say and I hesitate and things like that. So I'm doing my best to not do that as much because it's very annoying to have to put comma, space, space, comma, whatever. Even there where I said I'm going to have to add that. So I'm just trying to be more articulate. Part of that involves me, I guess this is now an episode breakdown of the episode breakdowns, but part of that involves me also just taking a pause. Anytime I start to feel myself rambling or finding myself struggling to find some words, like right there, I just took a 3-second pause, but when I edit this, I'm going to cut out that pause so it seems like it's all one cohesive thought. I've started doing that more, but I've also just been better about not needing such long pauses. Anyway, let's get into the episode breakdown. I just realized I'm on Audacity instead of... it doesn't matter. You guys are seeing the drawings anyway. So, originally, there was no copyright for the music that I used. And now there is. That copyright claim for the music, the third music piece that I use, is one where it doesn't affect my video. I'm very fortunate in that the individual who made this cover decided to change it so that they're not monetizing it or anything like that. As I've always said, I don't make any money from anything I do online. I can't monetize my videos because I don't have enough subscribers and I don't have enough hours watched. So I can't make any money off of this. And I just make these because they're fun. I enjoy them. There was a song for Demon Slayer that I had to change. I wish I could have used the version from, I think her name is pronounced Ira T. There's an English version. The lyrics for the song go really well with what Jiren is feeling, but if I added that, there would have been copyright and the company would have added ads. So let's get started.
Oi, Kakaroto!
Boom, immediately pausing. Here I decided to have Vegeta kind of muffled, and so I decided I wanted a visual effect for that as well. I represented that by having Vegeta's text here a little bit blurry. So, you see that?
Kakaroto! カカロットを倒すのは俺だ
Notice the sound is directional here. First in your left ear, then some in your right ear. I just like adding that little effect.
カカロットを倒すのは俺だ
次を楽しみにしてな。
Here I used Turles' voice because I needed Goku to sound tired. Goku's actual voice is always too excited. I've talked about this in the past, so I won't harp on it too much.
本当のことを言ったまでだ。
Originally, in episode 3, this is a remnant of a joke from episode 3 that got cut. Originally, Frieza was, when Goku told Jiren, I don't care about your backstory. If you want to jump off, jump off. Frieza was supposed to hop in and say, yeah, do a flip. But because I didn't have a lot of Frieza voice lines at the time, I decided to skip it. I was also getting burnt out of the project at that time, so I just skipped it. This was supposed to be Jiren getting his revenge because Frieza was like, yeah, uninstall. So now I changed it. I added some audio from Caleb City, and I added a video of some guy. It's actually a very heartbreaking video. Some guy getting beat up by a gang in order to be initiated, and some people are like, let's just kill him, let's just finish him off. But I decided to make it into a standalone comedy bit here. Oh, and these I yield, and don't just stand there, I believe are from different videos that I just put together. I thought they went well. This is one issue that I have. I hadn't realized, if you look at the waveform, that you actually do hear Goku start to say another line. I hadn't realized when I was editing, and it kind of bothers me now. So, not that I'm going to remaster this episode, but that's one thing to point out. The second, we're about to hear Vegeta do more talking than he's ever done in any of my videos. I decided to have him be the one to confront Goku about this as a continuation of his positive character arc from Z. He thinks about others more, at least more than Goku is doing in this series. You can also see, if you moderate spoilers for the Dragon Ball Super manga, this hasn't been adapted by the anime yet, so if you want to skip to the timestamp on screen, that's fine. In the manga, Vegeta shows that he cares more about the Namekians suffering. So when they're being made to suffer again, because of their Dragon Balls, I can't remember, he actually gets upset on their behalf, and he recognizes, I did some terrible things to them too. So I feel like I need to atone by helping them out as well. Another thing that I wanted to do was, Dragon Ball isn't really talked about or shown all that much, and to be fair, Dragon Ball has some pretty pervy stuff going on. It's also a very different anime. It's way more focused on comedy than it is fighting. So I know people who have watched Dragon Ball, like I actually went back and watched it. I know people who actually watch Dragon Ball like to go and say, the fan base doesn't even watch 40% of the actual series because they didn't watch Dragon Ball. Truth be told, though, it's a very different series. Some people who like Dragon Ball Z because of its fighting and story might not like Dragon Ball as much because it's more comedy oriented, and that's fine. Regardless, Dragon Ball isn't talked about or shown very often, so when I thought that this was going to be the final episode of Super, which now we've had some movies coming out, there may be a continuation of the anime, maybe not. I thought, okay, well, let me just show all the things that Goku has been through in his life, not just in Z, but even as a kid. Oops. One second. This audio. This song, I had to go and grab from the original YouTube video again, because I had apparently deleted it. Let's see if this fixes it. Not quite. trying to see if I can fix it without having to. Okay, I think this has fixed it. Editing, me, Redacted Editor, might have to go through and patch this up so that on your end, you're watching the edited version, everything is made correctly, but on my end, it might be a little out of sync. I might decide to just mute this and try again. I was very proud of this sound effect. I couldn't think of what to add here. I think in the actual anime, and we can take a quick listen, they use a very weird sound effect. It's also slowed down, I forgot that. But yeah, their sound effect didn't quite do it for me, so I eventually found some stone sliding and added that. Okay, I think the music is actually matching up pretty well with what it was supposed to, so I'll probably just leave it. The Grand Priest here, I have him raise his hand and change the sky for a specific reason. In the original, he's announcing half of the universes are gone, but in this one, he's announcing there are only 2 that remain. I wanted to show the sky changing because going forward, I'm going to be using a lot of Part 2 of the Tournament of Power. As I previously said, Part 1 has a lot of dark sky, Part 2 has a lot of green sky, and Part 3 has a lot of purple sky. I don't like mixing and matching because I feel like it is very distracting when you're trying to watch when the sky is constantly changing colors. It stands out too much. Also, the clip of Vegeta talking here is actually reversed. I think originally it fades in, it like slides this way, and then it shows him and he doesn't talk for very long or something like that, but it's reversed. Here I close up on Vegeta's eyes a lot, here and here, because him talking here is very short. So in order to cover that up, especially I couldn't just repeat his lips, what is it called? His lip flaps here, because the sky here is constantly changing, and I felt like it would, again, be very distracting and very obvious if I just duplicated this. So if I had it look like this instead, you see, I just felt like it would be very ugly. So instead I zoomed in on his eye. Oh, I also just wanted to add really quickly, I don't have a lot to say during these flashbacks. I just went and grabbed some stuff I felt like was impactful, or went with the text that Vegeta's about to add. The only thing I did want to point out, this background I made to look more grainy and more desaturated, so it looks more old-fashioned. The original episode, at least the episodes that I used for this, actually look pretty good. They don't look as old-fashioned as I was thinking. So, in order to make it look more like a flashback, I added those effects. I just really liked this Goku and Krillin, their little like powwow. Also, this originally didn't match, so I changed it to sync up with the music, like them doing their fist bumps here. Notice how it matches with the beat as they're doing. So here, I debated whether I wanted to add Chi-Chi fighting Goku. Here, she's fighting him because he doesn't remember he promised to marry her when they were kids. I debated adding this versus the episode where they're getting married, because I was like, oh, which would be more impactful? Ultimately, I decided on this because I felt like this showed a lot more of her personality than her just being married. Again, notice that I made this more grainy and desaturated than the original just to make it look like a background or flashback. I also wanted to add Goten here now that we've had an episode, a series focused on him, just to make people be like, oh yeah, remember future Goten and all the terrible things? Because this is still in that same timeline, universe, fanfic, whatever you want to call it.
貴様に言われる筋合いはない。この俺を気軽に実験材を扱いしやがって。
I started adding sound when we got to Dragon Ball Z. I think this is still Dragon Ball, but when we got to Dragon Ball Z, just because I wanted to have Goku and Vegeta yelling at one another. However, you'll notice that this is in English, and that was a mistake. I didn't realize that the episode I had for this was in English, so that just slipped past me.
安請け合いするな。
I wanted to start adding at least once per series, maybe once per episode, but once per series, have a character say redacted as a reference to me. I thought it was funny. That yell was another reason I wanted to add sound when we got to Z, because I felt like it would be a lot more impactful being able to hear that. And then once I started adding the voices, I realized, well, I can't just only have it for some scenes. That kind of sounds weird. I thought about going back and doing it for Dragon Ball, but in some of these, like here, it would have been great when Tien hits Goku. I could add a sound effect there. But here, I don't really have any sounds of an old voice actor, Seiyu, going, ha, ha, ha. And I'm pretty sure they have music here, so it was a lot more difficult for there. But here, I was able to find some clips where I could add it without the music overpowering. The hand here and Goku getting up were supposed to match. They were supposed to be like the same hand, more or less, of Goku, because Goku puts his hand down trying to pick himself back up. I'm trying to see if he does an actual, like he hits the ground. This is from Kai, apparently. No. But it was meant to match. This shot you're about to see of Goku walking forward, it matches the music, which at first was unintentional, but then I decided to sync it up better because I just really liked it. But this and Vegeta powering up were what made me decide to use the green background, because up until now I was using, I think I tried just using when it was dark background and when it was purple background, but when I saw this I thought, no, this is so great, this goes so well with it, I have to use this, so I added. I also again want to mention the audio files for this got all mixed up because since making this I've moved around my audio files. I tried to make them the correct ones, the same ones that I used in the original video, but they might be desynced. Okay, so this entire segment from here when Goku starts walking to until after they're done yelling is one of my favorite parts of this episode. This was the, like this and the flashbacks when the flashback began were my, like, it's what I was imagining when I was adding the music. A few things before, and I'm just going to let this all play out because again I do really like this scene. Some things I want to point out, this is the purple background I'm talking about, and I don't like that we go from green background to purple background. I don't know if people actually notice this, but it's something that I notice and bothers me. I tried changing it to the green background, but that didn't come out well. And then here, Vegeta also looks beat up, even though at the beginning of this discussion last time we saw him, he was spick and span. He was clean, very oily. There was no damage whatsoever to him. So I didn't like that all of a sudden he was beat up because, again, that ruins the continuity. I thought about trying to clean him up myself by just drawing over these. Like, I could very easily copy this white and color over this, add some shadow. But for his armor, I'm not great at drawing, so I wouldn't be able to do that. It'd be too difficult.
と融合するくらいなめられたもんだカカロット無理だあいつには何人でかかってる貴様と融合するくらいなら俺は死を選ぶ
The screams here are meant to be directional, at least for Goku's. Notice that he's more in your right ear. I just thought that was cool. I love, really, their screams here as they're powering up. And also, I forgot to talk about the actual story elements of this. So this is meant to be when Goku finally realizes the consequences of his actions, how he's been impacting people. I haven't been talking about the story too much because I feel like the story itself more or less says everything that I want to talk about, and I feel like you guys would understand what I'm going for there. But yeah, this is meant to be the turning point where Goku realizes, okay, I've been real selfish. I've made a huge mistake. I need to fix this. And so now he's finally fighting not for himself, but for the sake of his universe. It's a turning point, really, where he starts to become more like Jiren, and Jiren starts to become more like him. We'll talk about that when we get to the 4-minute mark, but I wanted to point that out. I also really love how beautiful this is Blu-ray right here. Remember last episode, I found out how much more beautiful the Blu-ray looks than the TV production. And let's appreciate this without any other sound. Just look at how beautiful that looks. It looks amazing. So I gushed about it. And then finally, this black screen, how long is this segment? I debated on how long to make this, but from 3:14 to, so this 6-second segment of quietness and black screen is meant to be, and look at the glow, it just looks beautiful. It's meant to be a reset. We just had a very hype moment where, oh, let's go. And now we need to go on to a calmer, okay, we've talked about it. Let's let out a deep breath and switch over so that we can talk about how sad Jiren is. I also switched to the purple sky, so this black segment helps to reset in a lot of different ways. Oop. Real quick, also wanted to add, I did debate cutting this here and having this be episode 4 and then having the rest of this be episode 5 or episodes 5 and 6, but I decided to just keep going because originally I think I promised to make this a 3-episode series, just like how I did for the future Goten arc, and then it ended up becoming 4 episodes because I added episode 2 in.
そりゃ無責任ってもんだ。
I add this, I forget how I found this, but this kind of white noise in the background, just so that it's not black noise, it's not pure silence. I feel like it helps with the ambiance, the atmosphere.
だが信頼を得るのは損じゃない。むしろ孤立するお前の態度の方があからさまで。すまんが、ぶら下がるのにコツがいるとは思えん。
Jiren's voice actor for this is Reiner. Whenever he's more depressed, I'm using Reiner from season 4 because Reiner's more depressed. And whenever he is more excited, I use Reiner from seasons 1 and 2 because he's a lot more energetic. Unfortunately, there are some, and again, I'll talk about this more in a moment, but there are some points where he says some last names or some familiar Japanese words that make you realize this is from Attack on Titan. For instance, here, I'm pretty sure he says brass. He says someone's last name. I can't remember whose last name it is, but he says it.
すまんが、ぶら下がるのにコツがいるとは思え。どうやって何しにここに来た？あの時言ってたよな。お前らができるだけ苦しんで死ぬように努力す。
Again, season 4 Reiner.
努力するって。お前ら天候に遅れるぞ。焦って姿勢を崩したんだな。
This is more season 1 Reiner.
あの縁談、右翼側から上がったのか。本当に参った。もうダメかと。
So, I talked last time about Yuki Kitty's comment on episode 3. Also notice, just a bit ago, I said that Goku is now not fighting selfishly anymore. He's fighting for the sake of his universe because he realizes how selfish he's being. Jiren is now flipping. He is fighting more selfishly. He's deciding that he does want to live, and he's no longer just fighting for his universe, he's fighting for himself. It's because of Yuki Kitty's comment saying how Jiren is learning from Goku that I started to lean into this more. I really wanted to emphasize the contrast between the selfish but depressed Jiren and the selfish but happy Goku. Did I say selfish or selfless for Jiren? Anyway, remember that Jiren is meant to resonate with two groups of people. The first are the people who are in a career path because it's what others wanted for them, not because it's what they wanted. We've also seen how he's had passive suicidal ideation. I kept in episode 3 calling it passive suicidal ideation. It's supposed to be passive suicidal ideation. The difference is suicidal ideation is I want to kill myself or die at the very least. Passive suicidal ideation is I'm not going to kill myself, but if a car comes barreling down the road, I don't know that I'll jump out of the way. That's something that I felt that I needed to resolve by the end of this episode, because either Jiren's going to be erased, and I felt like some people would say I'm telling people with passive suicidal ideation that you should just give up because it's meaningless, or I'm saying I'm going to have Universe 7 be erased, which is difficult because if Dragon Ball Super comes back as a, weekly anime, I want to be able to continue this series potentially. I also wanted to use the proper Demon Slayer song, but when I rendered out the video, it said that it was blocked in countries where 42% of my viewers are from, which I think included the US.
もうダメかと。ただやるべきことをやる。俺には何も聞こえていない。
So, this is from an NPR episode an NPR clip that I was listening to. There was a period where I was really interested in learning what it is that causes people to be suicidal and what their thoughts are, what goes through their mind during those times. And one of the things that I was listening to was a clip from NPR. I think it just came on the radio happenstance. It talked about how usually the decision to actually go through and commit suicide is a 5-minute impulse that if people are able to weather down and get through that, they no longer have that drive. They may still want to die, but they no longer have that, okay, it's go time. Let's do this. Let's do this now. Also, there was an article that talked about how suicidal people don't want to die. They believe that they want to die, but in truth, they don't want to die. There were people who would jump off the Golden Gate Bridge who would fall to their death. And usually what happens is they get crushed by the water, because it turns out when you jump into water doesn't compress. So jumping into a river is the same as jumping into concrete. It doesn't compress. You die because your bones are broken, and the ones who don't immediately die from the impact drown or they die from very quick hypothermia because of the rushing river. Of the people that survived, because you can't interview people who died, of the people who survived, I think it was like almost all of them said that in that moment, when they jumped, they realized that every single problem in their life could be solved except for the fact that they had just jumped. In that moment, your instinct to live, which was missing for so long, comes roaring back and says, no, I don't want to die. It turns out suicidal people don't want to die, they just want their problems to go away. And they think that this is one of the ways to fix it. They want to stop suffering, and this is, as they see it, the only way to stop that suffering. I decided to use this for Jiren and show that he came here, he was hoping to die. Goku was like, threatening him, but he realized that he actually does want to live. This is the first time in years, decades, maybe his entire life, that he's actually had a desire to live. So now he wants to live. I was hoping that this would minimize the backlash of having a suicidal character eventually actually die. And then I realized that I'm not popular enough for people to have, internet drama or issue with me. I think this episode currently, I can't remember. I think it's sitting at like 900 views, maybe. It's one of my more popular episodes, but it's not popular enough for people to really have backlash about. But at the very least, I said to myself, okay, I fixed it. Jiren doesn't want to die. He's striving to live. Now I can kill him. Oh, and this entire section, I don't know what it was, but I just felt like I was doing a very terrible job with the sound effects. Starting from here, I just felt like I was doing an awful job with the sound effects all the way until the music stops just about. Notice Goku's there is in your right ear. I just like directionality. Let's try that again. It was loading that, so it made his voice drop down. But notice this line that Jiren has, first off, doesn't match with his lip flaps. There wasn't really much I could do about that because I needed Reiner to yell. But secondly, this is a Reiner yelling that I used previously, I think in the last episode, just because this is when they're in the forest and they're yelling. I've shown the clip of it before. I'm not going to show again. It's one of the only places I can immediately think of off the top of my head where Reiner is yelling with passion. You'll notice if you listen closely that Frieza is yelling in your left ear, while Goku is yelling in your right ear. The echo here wasn't intentional. I just recorded, how do I say? I didn't add that sound effect. It was something that was already there, and I was like, okay, well, that goes really well with this part. And then I added some sound effects to go with it. Again, Frieza yells in your left ear, while Goku is in your right ear. I hate whenever there's white light that kind of flashbangs you. So whenever there's white light like this, I always dim it down just a little bit so that anyone who's watching in complete darkness, they're not blinded. Same with right here. Just a little bit. Again, we have the silence as a reset because we were very hyped. Hey, Jiren's finally fighting back and he's doing it for himself. Oh, sorry. And now we're at a point where we need to calm down, take a breather, reset. We're entering part 3 of the episode. Oh, and there, right there, is where I could have cut it and made this episode 6. That would have been episode 5, but I decided I'm just going to do it all in one because I promised 3 episodes. I'm on episode 4. I don't want to keep doing this, especially since this had I thought about cutting it because this had some music that was being marked as copyright, but it wasn't until I was publishing it that it said, hey, your music's being marked as copyright. We're going to put ads on it. They're going to get the revenue. I was like, okay, well, I could cut it, but honestly, I'd have to change some things around and make end credits for just that. I don't want to do that. I'm so burnt out, so I didn't.
満足されたようですね、ビルス様。
Whis' voice line is low quality because this is still some of the ones that I recorded myself as opposed to being ones that I got for, and when I say record myself, I'm not using my phone. I'm just using the same program I'm using to record this episode breakdown. It's just, and then I try and clear it up with Audacity. Same way I clear up my audio that you're currently listening to with Audacity.
まだ力が馴染んでいないようですね。
And then this is a line that I didn't record myself that was actually, I extracted it from the game file itself. I tried extracting some Attack on Titan voice lines from one of their games, but there's not as much instruction on that, so it's a lot more difficult. To this day, I still haven't, but I'd still like to try if I can, so I can get more voice lines. And Roshi's voice coming up here, I don't remember where I got it from. I think it's from My Dress Up Darling, the grandpa, but I don't remember.
なせんなくても。シャンパのやつ、調子に乗りやがって。
Here, Beerus says Champa's name. Like I said, I usually try to not add names that are recognizable or common words in Japanese. Like here, I wouldn't want to add a line of Beerus saying Dasukete because too many people recognize that, and I feel like it detracts from what's actually going on. But this slipped through because I didn't realize until when I was almost done editing, and I was too tired to go find something else.
来てもらったんだからさ。
貴様と戦うのも何度目になるか。
もう少し慣れてから次の段階に行きましょうか。あなたの成長はそこまで。
俺たちも頑張らないと追い越され。
Here, I use this Beerus looking back and then slowly looking away. I've used it before just because I really like it. It's very nice. You'll notice that the background, I changed the color from green to purple because this is a purple section. I thought it would be too distracting otherwise. I also added subscribe text over here. I'll make it a little bit more visible. This is around the time that I started adding this because I thought it'd be a nice little game for people who are... So that's how it normally looks. It's a little blurred and a little faded. I thought it would look nice for people who are... How do I say? Who are rewatching. Just something for them to look out for. I try and add it throughout my episodes now. I think there are a few where I've forgotten. But in this, I'm trying to lead people to think that Goku's about to go Ultra Instinct, but I don't add Ultra Instinct. It's a bait and switch. I don't actually like Ultra Instinct, and I don't like all these endless arrays of hair colors and transformations that we're getting. At the very least, to its credit, it's one that anyone can unlock, but I know Dragon Ball Z is an anime all about transformations, but I just feel like so many of these seem out of nowhere and unearned now. Maybe that's how it was always and I just didn't notice it, but I don't know. I also didn't like, we're about to see this, I want to play it in its entirety as best I can. No, I'll have to pause again. I didn't like the no killing rule that was there because I felt like it was very obviously a restriction on the show just so that you can have it rated towards kids. But just like how they don't like dismemberment, in the history of Trunks, you have Gohan missing his arm, but in games with future Gohan, they still have his arm there. They just don't have it cut off. They have him not using it because whenever you have a character missing body parts, your game has to be rated differently. Like you have to increase the maturity from, I think, teen to mature. So it's not as many people will pick it up because of that. So I thought killing was going to play into the series by having a character, Frieza, mistakenly kill someone and get erased for it. But then that didn't happen. So I decided to incorporate it here. Goku has intentionally been getting beat up so that he can die to get Jiren disqualified because he realizes Jiren is too powerful. I also thought Roshi was doing the exact same thing. When he was fighting against some characters, I thought he was like giving his all and about to drop dead, and that was going to be ruled as a character killing him, even though he did it to himself. But again, it didn't happen.
追い越されそうだな。
Did you see it? That was it. Let me show you again. In this clip, there's something that caused me to start the episode breakdown. Let's see if you can see it. Did you guess what it was? This was originally blue, because originally, oh, and I had to cut it because when well, here, I'll show, let's do it like this. So originally this was blue, and it was Goku charging the Kamehameha. Oh no, it was his Ultra Instinct. It was his Ultra Instinct shining instead. But I changed it to red because we're about to show fire. It wouldn't make sense for it to be blue. I also had to cut it because when I made this red instead of blue, it affected all these other people down here. You see that? It affects the halos of the angels, so I just made it so that only that part turns. It's such a stupid thing, but this was the final straw. I said to myself, no one, unless they watch the actual episode, no one is going to notice that I've made this change. I want people, this is such a small thing, but I want people to be aware of it. So I decided to start making these episode breakdowns to point out these small details. Think about how many hours of episode breakdowns that I've made just because of this one part. And it's not that, you know, this was the final straw. That's all.
ただ進み続ける。大丈夫じゃねえな。巨人に腕を噛み砕かれたんだ。
Again, this line is purely because of Yuki Kitty's comment on episode 3 breakdown, or episode 3 of the Villain Goku arc. It's because they had mentioned it that I was like, yeah, I should lean into it more. You'll also notice that I make the music here match up, and I make it like fade and add in. I like that. It was such a small detail, but I think it's cool. You'll also notice, again, Reiner is the voice for Jiren here, so you'll hear him say Kyojin. He's talking about the Titans and wherever this voice clip originally comes from. This is also one of my favorite, like this part with the music is one of my favorite parts of the episode.
ただ進み続ける。大丈夫じゃねえな。巨人に腕を噛み砕かれたんだ。言う通りにするんだ。本当にそう思っている。
強豪のヒットさんが脱落したところで100タックのうち50タックが経過しましたよ。
We did it. Jiren finally decides that he wants to live. He's going to quit fighting as a hero. He's going to stand up for himself, and he's doing better. So now I feel better about letting him die and his universe be erased. He struggled all his life only to realize he can't continue to live like this forever, and in the end chose to live. So even though he's erased, it's easier for me to argue that I'm erasing him for story reasons rather than it being a lesson that people who don't want to live should just give up because it's meaningless and you're going to die in the end anyway, no matter what you do.
残り時間が半分となります。
そのために来たんだろう。二人を無理やり説得して。俺のせいだ。
脱落です。参りましょうか。
By the way, I don't actually have any voice lines for the Grand Priest, so I just use Whis. Also, coming up, we're going to see that the Grand Priest is basically taunting Universe 7, talking about how vicious they are and they should feel basically sickened by how brutal their universe is. There's a popular fan theory that the angels actually are evil. This hasn't, as far as I've read in the manga, I'm not caught up, but this hasn't been proven to be the case just yet, or really at all. But it was a popular fan theory, so I decided to add this, showing them being like, yeah, you guys are evil. We're eradicating the universe because of what you did. You know, it's your fault. Look at what you made us do. Aside from this, there's only one more thing that I want to talk about when it comes to the ending. Also, this edit that I do here is one of my favorites.
過去の自分自身を倒すことができないのなら
I made that echo effect myself in Audacity.
それではお望みの人に登場してもらいましょう。
Krillin yelling Goku here. This visual clip is actually from when Roshi is dying and Goku has to save him, and Krillin yelling Goku is when he's being killed by Frieza.
してもらいましょう。これがあなた自身の新しい力、あなた自身の強さ、自分の殻を破る姿を。以上、修行はおしまいです。
So you might feel like this ends abruptly, and that's because it does. The ending for this was cut. In this version, your prize is that your universe survives, and Zeno originally didn't allow any of the other universes to be brought back. Ultimately, I decided to reverse that. They can revive the other universes using the Super Dragon Balls, whatever. I felt like it kind of ruins the whole arc of everyone fighting if you just bring everyone back. There's no consequences to any actions. But regardless, what I originally was going to do was then have everyone be gathered around the Dragon Balls and they'd be debating about whether or not they should bring Goku back because, you know, of what an awful thing he did to them. But Shenron would cut in and say, I can't find Son Goku's soul in this universe, so I can't bring him back. Then everyone would realize, oh, Goku, the tournament was held in a different universe, so that means that Shenron can't go across. So we're going to now start a version of the series where we have to go find Goku in the other universe, his soul. So I was going to have Goten and Trunks go on this adventure so that they would gain some relevance. They would go on their own adventure and be able to have fun. Ultimately, this was scrapped because I was burnt out. And then it's just the ending. The only thing here I want to show is this. At first was unintentional, but I leaned into it. The voice lines sync. Like everyone sounds like they're actually singing the ending. I just thought it'd be nice. And then I add the actual music here too. Like which song I use, where, and when. Okay. So, oh, this is supposed to be a space for me to add my end card. But that's it. Thank you for joining me. Next time we're going to have a very short episode breakdown, Attack on Titan Journey's End. I think it was number 99 for my videos. Let's see what time is at. We're at 51 minutes, 52 minutes.